On a November night in 1940, 21 torpedo bombers lifted off of the deck of an aircraft carrier. Their target was out of sight, far over the horizon. This historic mission would change the nature of war forever. The bombers' surprise attack was the first large-scale aerial raid on a naval fleet. Called Operation Judgment, this British raid on fascist Italy's fleet, anchored in the harbor of Taranto, put the Italian Navy out of action for the rest of the Second World War. 10,000 miles away, this attack was noted by Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto and his naval planning staff in Tokyo. The Japanese decision-makers were divided about whether to go to war with the United States. They also disagreed about the wisdom of opening such a war with a surprise attack on the American Pacific Fleet, anchored in orderly rows at Pearl Harbor. Many historians now believe that the British raid on Taranto tipped the balance in favor of the attack on Pearl Harbor, which the Japanese Navy carried out on December 7, 1941. With that attack, the gates to a new hell, modern total war, were opened. No one in 1941 could envision this war's human toll and its apocalyptic end. My father, Chief Warrant Officer Gregory Adam Diaz, was among the 16 million Americans who served in uniform during the biggest and bloodiest war in history. More than 400,000 of them gave their lives in service to the nation. The 6th Cavalry Band that my father directed was ordered to service in the newly formed 3rd Army. Led by General George S. Patton, the 3rd Army became famous for its lightning breakout of the stalemated front after the Allied D-Day landings at Normandy. General Patton loved ceremony. When he heard my father's band playing at an event in Northern Ireland before the invasion, he commandeered the band. It became known as the 3rd Army Band. In addition to his other duties, my father wrote several marches. He wanted to call one of them the General Patton March, but General Patton told him to call it the 3rd Army March instead. After the war, the march seemed to be lost to history, but it wasn't, as we'll see in a bit. Meanwhile, back on the home front, women stepped up to duty. 400,000 served in uniform, but millions more, like my mother, Violet Diaz, took over the responsibility of raising families on their own. Others took the place of men working in war industries. When the war was over and the men returned from their military service, many of them found that these women were no longer willing to play the subservient role that had been prescribed for them in the pre-war years. The lives of women in America during the Second World War had changed. Oh, one more thing. About that 3rd Army March that my father wrote. Well, in 2012, it was rediscovered and brought back to life by Colonel Lawrence Deveron, an alert and curious Army historian. Colonel Deveron brought the march to the attention of Pershing's own, the Army Band. What better way could there be to close this season of Fire and Ice than listening to the 3rd Army March?
where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long.